My name is Celestial Joy Smith, and I am the bookstore manager for Bethel Media.
My name's Eric Darling, and I'm the warehouse manager for Bethel Media.
I am Sarah Cooper, and I am the COO for Bethel Media.
My husband and I moved here from Georgia just on faith, and we sold everything we knew that God had called us to Reading. So when we came to the Bethel environment, I saw there were opportunities open with Bethel Media, and I have a ministry background and I have a retail background, but I'd never used them together. So when I saw a little bit of a sales, retail opportunity available on the careers page, I just knew I was going to put in all the applications, talk to all the people, and see what I could do to be a part of the environment.
I was working full-time for about 13 years. I kind of just had this epiphany moment where I was done working for a paycheck. You know, it forced me to look really far down and deep, like, Eric, why are you working here? Like, what is the purpose? You know, this is more than just providing for your family. This is more than just paying bills. Dig down deep. And, you know, God just told me, like, stop working for a paycheck. Instead, work for me on behalf of them. I have a standard of how I do business, and it is inside of you. And it's about you taking that standard and putting it here. It was like a switch just went off. Things started turning. And it just seemed like over the years, the promotion after promotion just kept on happening. You know, I was at my last posting, felt like it was coming to a close. And so one day, just out of the blue, I was like, you know what, I don't know, let's see what's in Reading just for fun. And so I looked and there it was, you know, the warehouse manager position was open up at Bethel Media. And I was like, well, that's interesting. So I just kind of threw my name into the hat, and little did I know, a month and a half later, I was offered the position and just blown away. I was like, oh my word, I guess God is not done with this here.
So the way I came to Bethel Media, I think as many would agree, is by way of Holy Spirit. When I look today at what it took to bring me here, I can see that there were little dots and, you know, little moments that sort of led up to me being here. I have a degree in economics, and I've always been in industry. So from banking to real estate to development, manufacturing. In different seasons of my life, I would see or hear something about Bethel. So I was working in West Africa on a manufacturing project, and I was involved in a local community church for the purpose of community and sowing into the community. But it was actually watching Bethel TV that kept me sustained and kept me fed at the level, of growth that I was looking for. And never did I imagine that I would actually work for the platform that sustained me when I was abroad. There was some political instability and economic instability in the country, and I had some real clear indicators that it was time to go. And so I came back to the United States, and just by random stance, I thought, I wonder if Bethel is hiring. And I looked, and sure enough, 2 days prior, an operations position was posted at Bethel Media, and I thought, okay, Lord, I can really see what you're doing. So how did I come? I would say definitely by way of Holy Spirit.
I never thought I would actually end up in this kind of a management ministry type role in the environment, but it's turned out to be the best blessing I probably could have ever asked for. And I ended up finding the family with Bethel Media that we were looking for at the same time of operating my passions in a new way that is so unique to the environment. Coming from a retail background, it was always this hope and a desire of mine to marry like an experience or hope to products that I was, meeting in the tangible, but to have more of a depth, more of a meaning behind it. So to have this kind of opportunity that we get to connect with people in a deeper way, and they get to go home with products that means so much more to them. They remember their encounter with God here. They remember the people they connected with here. And the team members are encouraged to help facilitate these moments. They could be prayed over. They could have a word of knowledge for somebody. And that could be from our team members, or that could even be from another customer that walks in the door.
And I realized for me that there was kind of a different calling on my life, was to was to make just places better, to go in a situation where it just seemed and felt like it was chaotic and make it better. You know, me being a dad of 5, sometimes when I come home, I mean, the place is just lit up. And so, but there's a part of it, you know, coming in and like, all right, boys, hey, come on, let's clean this up, clean that up. Like, it's just wired into me. And so I realized that when I came here, I just saw that same thing. I was like, wow, let's get this place like rolling. Let's get it cleaned up. Like, I want this place to be awesome. You know, I want God's standard to be here.
The culture is one of empowerment. It's one of legacy. It's one of community. And I would say overall, the reason why I work here is largely because of the culture that has been really just downloaded from heaven, I would say cultivated and then exported out. In living in Redding, you see that this particular ministry has impacted the entire city. I've seen business growth. I've seen creative ideas like come to life and come to fruition. And to me, it speaks to the nature of who we are as believers. We're co-creators, right? But we have to believe in the vision that's on the inside of us and be supported in growing that vision to where it becomes a creative expression. And so for me, and my vantage point, those are some of the things that I look at to see how the kingdom impact is. And it's happened in this local community, but I also believe that as we export the culture and the concepts and the heart and the teaching, that same duplicative effect would also happen in other areas or in other regions where that same type of teaching is able to permeate the mindsets of the individuals in the regions where it hits. And so the reason why I'm so happy to be a part of Bethel Media is because I feel that the service and the kingdom work is helping to transfer or to distribute that information out so that we truly can invade earth with heaven.
There was this woman, and she came in the store, maybe somewhat a little lost, looking for an alternative to a guest book for her mother's memorial service. And her mother had just passed a month prior. And we had a coffee table book that had a celebration of a woman's life. It was very simple, but it was encouraging. The woman in the storybook was characterized with, I think, a blue dress or a very characterized dress. She said, that's the dress that my mother actually wore all the time, very similar to her. And she started weeping at reading the pages, and she had started realizing, she's like, this is the woman that my mother was, and this is perfect. And so in that moment, she wept, and she's like, this is the first time that I've actually been able to cry since her passing. I've been so busy with handling everything and all of the details that I haven't stopped for a moment to remember her. And so she bought the book for a guest book for a memorial service, but we were able to just pray peace into her life and pray her through the beginning of this grieving process. And it stuck out to me so much. It was one of my first experiences how a product so simple of a simple cartoon book could turn into this moment of peace for somebody that I would never want to be anywhere else in that moment.
It was really cool to see when my wife and I first arrived that back home, it's kind of sad, they were crying because they didn't want to go to church. You know, they're like, we'd have to have like some Dr. Phil counseling session before we put them in church, and we're like, hey, it's okay, So we thought maybe that they were just young and wanted to be with mom and dad. But when we came down here, they were crying because they had to leave. They were crying. I still remember taking one of my sons out, and when he found out that we were there to pick him up to go home, to go get lunch, he was bawling. So they had to open the door for us to get him. And so that was just a beautiful testimony to see, like, God could be fun. Now I'm having to coach my kids to get out. I'm like, hey, church hasn't really stopped. We're going to go home and we can do that there too. But that was probably like our first or second Sunday we were here when we moved to Redding.
I have watched myself, and others have also seen, I think, kind of like a transition from a servant to a daughter. And that has been something I've walked into and have just felt such a sense of peace and rest and purpose and no more striving. in a way that I think was more so marked in my heart. But it's been amazing and it's been freeing. Having been a part of community here has been so impactful because of just the compassion and the love and the partnering. I mean, when my father had cancer, I was able to really truly partner with people who were willing to believe in faith with me for everything that I had faith for. I was able to do that in a community that was so compassionate and loving, that I felt so supported and loved, and at a time when I also experienced great loss. And so for that, I am extremely, extremely grateful.
I feel like God is taking us on a journey that may be unexpected, maybe rocky, and obviously this last season with, the pandemic and everything that's been happening, I'm sure had its pivots, but it repositioned such a success for the future and even an unknowing for the future. But you can still head forward with great expectations, even though you don't know what those expectations are. There's a hope and there's a spark that's completely undeniable.
Thinking of it like that, just from my perspective, is really trying to bring the best out of people in solving problems, creating a culture and an atmosphere where people can come in to the warehouse or come in anywhere Bethel Media and feel like, hey, I can actually put forth my full self of who God made me to be.
Bethel Media was birthed in order to serve the church as content was being created on the local platform. And that service looked like getting the message out. And even in this most recent time, seeing the pivots with watching from home and things like that, it's highlighted so many opportunities to just really, really get better at what we do. And I think part of getting better at what we do is also a part of walking into the prophetic destiny for Bethel Media, which will allow for greater impact around the world.
Is that good? You guys got everything?
Great.